Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 42nd Mayor of the great city of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you so much. Mr. Council President, members of the City Council, fellow elected officials, members of the Consular Corps, distinguished guests, my family, especially my parents, and my wife, Amy Lane Wakeland, friends, honored guests, my fellow Angelenos. Today I am honored to come before you to report for the first time on the state of our city. Before I begin, I want to thank Fabian. I want to thank the California Science Center for hosting us, the Cortines School Singers for your incredible performance, and the City of Los Angeles Honor Guard for your service. You all remind us that we are lucky to call Los Angeles home. We are all blessed with so much. Unmatched weather, stunning beaches, spectacular mountains, and even more extraordinary people. But LA makes its own luck too. We are here in the Wallis Annenberg building at the California Science Center, which embodies this city's creativity. Just footsteps away is the Coliseum, a symbol of our city's successes and strengths. I was 13 years old when my father picked me up from camp for the 1984 games and drove me down to that Coliseum. I remember sitting alongside him at the closing ceremonies and the pride that I felt as a young Angeleno, as the world looked at us as we saved the Olympic movement and ran the most successful Olympics ever. Today as mayor, I look back and I think less about the medal count and more about what happened behind the scenes. It was those games, a towering example of a public-private partnership that brought us a modern LAX with an upper deck and a new international terminal. It was those games that introduced our integrated system of roadway sensors and cameras, all linked to a state-of-the-art command center, setting a new standard for traffic management. And it was a true partnership between the community and businesses, residents and city government that saw those games turn a profit that continues to pay dividends today. Innovation, investment and economic engines, efficient management, that's the true legacy of those games. And those are the sorts of basics that big cities turn into great cities through. 3 decades later, after riots, earthquakes, and recession have tested our mettle, we are again seeing hopeful signs in Los Angeles. Today, crime is down to historic lows, cranes are soaring, tourism records are being set, and a new tech company is starting in our town every 40 hours. I stand before you today to say that the state of our city is strong, but it is in need of fundamental reform. In a competitive global economy, Los Angeles cannot afford to keep relying on its sunshine as a guarantee of our future success. The challenges we face are not new. We don't need a new diagnosis. Since my first day as mayor, I've been focused instead on new solutions. It is time for a modern mayor to help build a new city government focused on 4 cornerstones: a well-run government, a strong economy, a high quality of life, and public safety. My goal is nothing less than making Los Angeles the safest, most prosperous, most livable, most well-run city in America. That is our mission. And that's what Back to Basics is all about. It starts at the top, and that's why on my first day as your mayor, I required every general manager to reapply for his or her job, which had never happened before. And for the first time, general managers will also undergo annual performance reviews. From the start, I held my own office accountable, too, to be laser-focused on those 4 priorities. That's why I reduced the number of deputy mayors from 12 to 4, one focused on keeping us safe, one focused on jump-starting our economy, one focused on improving the quality of our life, and one focused on building a well-run government. And we didn't wait to start moving forward. In my first month in office, together with the City Council, we negotiated a fair but tough DWP employee contract that reformed pensions and froze salaries. I hired the very best person to lead the department, Marcy Edwards, I think is with us here today, a woman who worked her way up the DWP ranks and broke 7 glass ceilings to become general manager. I directed her to take a hard look at DWP's rates and bring reform. Look, we can't ask you to pay more for your water and power when the DWP screws up your bill. So today, I'm announcing that I will not allow the DWP to raise rates this year. This department must earn back your trust. Upon taking office, I immediately began changing the culture throughout city government by setting measurable goals, metrics for excellence, to track success and hold departments accountable for the first time. And I'm making those measures public online so that you can hold me accountable too. And to further open government, I issued an executive directive requiring every department to post their data online. That passion for open government is shared by my partner and our city controller, Ron Galperin, who in his very first months, launched a website to give every resident access to the city's financial and accounting data, with me and with Councilmember Bob Blumenfield alongside. And I created an open budget portal to match that, posting 5 years of budget data online. Together, we are ushering in a new era of transparency in Los Angeles. Every dollar in, every dollar out, every dollar in public. But it's our tremendous city employees who are the front line of a new city government, which is why, since day one, I've been picking up the phone and calling them to thank them for their innovation and leadership. Our employees are too often ignored or forgotten, trapped in a culture that teaches them to keep their heads down instead of looking up at what's possible. Empower your workforce, and you will find innovators. People like Paul Jewett, an employee at Rec and Parks who was frustrated that the air conditioning at our gyms were stuck in the on position day and night, even when a gym was empty. Paul decided to go to the store and find a solution on his own time and on his own dime. He installed a red button so that people could turn the AC on when using the gym and turn it off when they left. And if they forgot, he installed a timer as a backup. After doing this in one rec center, Paul went to his boss and asked him if he could install his red button system in all of our city's gyms. Today, his innovation will save the city hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Paul, will you please stand up so we can thank you? There he is. There's Paul. You see, there's thousands of Pauls waiting in our government today to be awakened. It's the kind of problem-solving, common-sense initiative that's a great example of the new culture that we are collectively bringing to city government. I learned long ago that City Hall doesn't have all the answers. So when I became mayor, I used the convening power of my office to bring together a series of firsts. The first meeting of all of our city's university presidents, our first council of economic advisors, our first industry roundtables on aerospace, film, and other key sectors, our first gathering of all of LA County's 88 mayors. When I open Mexico's market to 266 Panda Express restaurants that will sell food made here in Rosemead and shipped south of the border, that's good for some of my LA City constituents who work at that company. Plus, it means orange chicken for everybody. And when I advocate for the foothill extension of the Gold Line to Claremont or get new flights to Ontario Airport, that helps relieve congestion in LA City and across the Southland. We are all tied together. In this region, we must widen the conversation and build coalitions that will position us to win in a competitive global environment. And we're bringing this cooperative, inclusive new way of governing outside City Hall, inside City Hall as well. At City Hall, we've thrown out the playbook, the old playbook of citywide elected officials that used to be full of rivalry and backstabbing, and now you're seeing 3 citywide officials, Mike Feuer, Ron Galperin, and me, working together. On my first day, I stopped by every single council office to say hi and to congratulate new council members. And I'm taking tours with each council member in their districts to hear about their priorities and to hear from their constituents. And I have more than a working relationship with our council president. I'm glad to call Herb Wesson a friend, too. We've brought new faces into city government, and we've surpassed my goal. And for the first time in city history, more than half of the people we have appointed and nominated to city commissions are women. Let's hear it, sisters. Together, we are leading a politics that is in stark contrast to the yelling and the stalemate that we see too often in national politics. Electing grown-ups who can work together, who like one another, is what you expect. Better than that, it's what you deserve. And that's what my City Hall will continue to do. A lot of people asked when I got to City Hall, will I still be able to have time to meet with constituents? But if I learned anything as a council member, it's that our work must always be rooted in direct relationships with everyday Angelenos, the silent majority of LA stakeholders who don't have a lobbyist at City Hall advocating for them. My very first day in office, I held the same face-to-face office hours with my constituents that I did for over a decade as a council member. And soon thereafter, we opened up the first help desk in the main lobby in City Hall. But we didn't stop there, merely expecting constituents to find their way to us. We went out and met them where they lived. I've had work days with my entire executive staff in South LA, where we were welcomed by Bernard Parks, Boyle Heights, where we worked alongside Jose Huizar and his staff, San Fernando Valley, where we joined Felipe Fuentes and Nuri Martinez with leaders from Van Nuys and Pacoima. I continued the practice I learned as council member of walking door to door. In fact, this weekend, Joe Buscaino and I will be in Wilmington. Come on out and come with us and meet some of your fellow Angelenos. And I've started touring neighborhoods with each council member and community leaders. We're using social media to engage and survey our residents online. And guess what? People are responding. More than 1,400 people came to our budget town halls throughout our city. I don't know about you, but budget town halls don't sound too sexy. But they came. And this wasn't a token consultation so that we could check off a box. We truly engaged Angelenos in small groups to share their hopes for city government. One group of residents asked me to hire more building inspectors to improve conditions in their neighborhood. They were right, and we did. Whether you're a city employee, a neighborhood leader, an Angeleno, a labor leader, a business leader, somebody who simply cares about our future, we're not just listening to you, we're inviting you to write the next chapter of this city's history. So while that future starts with a well-run city in turn relies on a strong economy, an economy that can provide the resources for city services and a higher quality of life for all of our residents. I said during my inauguration that the focus of my first year in office would be a city hall that works again and an LA economy that gets back to work. Yes, the unemployment rate has declined by 2% since I took office in July, and we've added more than 24,000 jobs to our local economy. But to truly leave the recession in the rearview mirror, I've intensely focused on three things: developing key industries that are the cornerstone of our emerging global economy, helping our workforce to develop new skills that lead to good jobs in that economy, and finally, making LA City Hall more business-friendly again. The very first meeting I held on the first day as your mayor was with leaders of numerous neighborhood chambers of commerce, folks who represented small businesses from Sherman Oaks to San Pedro. And they said what we know all too well, that in a city with the highest entrepreneurship rate in the nation, with the hardest working people in the world, with the most innovative intellectual capital anywhere, City Hall too often has been a place where jobs go to die, strangled by bureaucracy and indifference. Instead of solutions, businesses are met with red tape, high taxes, and excuses. Simply put, you shouldn't have to hire a lobbyist to open up a business in Los Angeles. So here's what we did. I told my business team, we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to reach out to business. We're going to chase every lead that we find and solve every problem that we can. And every week, I quietly and personally talk to entrepreneurs and executives about what we can do to help them here in LA. Let me tell you about one of those discussions. Last fall, I spoke to Sean O'Mara, an entrepreneur who started a new company, Lux Beauty Group. He found a great location in South LA. He put his experience and his drive to work, and he hired dozens of local residents who live in one of our most underemployed neighborhoods. He said he was thinking of leaving LA, though, because he couldn't get broadband access that his company depended on. So I picked up the phone, I talked to his internet provider, and Lux got what they needed. And as a result, Lux recently invested $1 million more in its LA operation, inked a major deal with Costco, and added more jobs to our local economy. You see, similarly, when one of Southern California's biggest companies, DirecTV, announced they would start creating their own television shows, I called them up and put our new film office to work. And while Georgia and New Mexico tried to woo these productions with tax breaks and other incentives, our new film office went to work. And I can announce today that next month DirecTV will begin filming 2 new series, Navy Street, it's going to be in Venice, Mike, so watch for it, and Things You Shouldn't Say Past Midnight, right here in Los Angeles. But that's not all. We lured Masters of Sex on Showtime from New York to Los Angeles, and the new CBS series Battle Creek, which was going to be shot in Connecticut, is going to be shot here in LA. And we're not stopping there. With the help of my dear friend, the late Tom Sherrick, and Ken Ziffrin, who's continued the fight, we reignited the movement to expand film tax credits in Sacramento. Partnering with Assembly members Mike Gatto and Raul Bocanegra, we've seen a new bill pass unanimously out of committee with tremendous momentum. My business team and I have breathed a new sense of urgency into our efforts to recruit and retain businesses here in LA. Since I took office, Riot Games, IMAX, CBRE, Splendid and Ella Moss, Chinatown Bank, Go Jane and Groceries Apparel have moved or announced their move into the city of Los Angeles. Many of them are benefiting from our collective work, our initiatives to make these moves easier. Today, and especially in the past, if you wanted to build in our city, you have to run a gauntlet of city approvals, and you have to do them one after another. That's why I ordered streamlined, sensible, and simultaneous processing, because time is money. 38 projects already valued at $3 billion have gone through this system, and soon we'll expand it to speed along 500 more projects this year alone. No more bureaucratic delays. Too often, we put the burden on you. Get in your car, drive downtown in traffic, and navigate our bureaucracy at your peril. It's time to move City Hall into the 21st century. That's why my Sunny Skies solar program will go live this year, allowing residential permitting of solar systems online. No more trips to City Hall, no more waiting on the phone. Instead, we're building more solar power and more green jobs here in LA. It's the same reason that we're digitizing more than 12 million records covering more than 1.1 million structures here in Los Angeles, which will be available online 24/7, free of charge. This means projects will move more quickly and more people will find jobs this year. See, I'm changing the culture so that our employees focus on creating jobs, not enforcing bureaucracy, as the critical measure of their success. And these efforts are bearing fruit. In just 1 week in February, some of you joined me, we broke ground on the $1 billion Metropolis project downtown, just 4 months after they brought the project to us, a new record. I participated in the same weekend in the biggest concrete pour in human history to lay the foundation of what will be the tallest building west of the Mississippi at the Wilshire Grand. And we got the federal funding that we have needed, the first grant in 17 years, to build our downtown subway connector. That's $3.4 billion, 40,000 jobs in 1 week in LA alone. And while that's good news, unfortunately our city is still home to some of the highest and most complicated business tax of any of the 88 cities in LA County. It's a tax that taxes you even when you lose money. This chases new businesses away and pushes existing businesses to leave. We must phase out the business tax entirely. But as our first down payment, next week I will introduce legislation as part of this year's budget that will be our down payment towards that goal. Our plan will cut the top business tax rate over 3 years, the top rate that nearly half of our businesses pay. And I want to thank two people, Council President Herb Wesson and Budget Chair Paul Krikorian, for their leadership as we take on this important reform to keep and attract good-paying jobs. But as we continue to accelerate job growth, we must also confront a growing paradox in Los Angeles, that even as we add good jobs to our economy, our city's poverty rate continues to climb. How can that be? Simply put, we are creating jobs in Los Angeles that aren't being filled by the residents of this city. We have failed to train tomorrow's workforce here in our own neighborhoods. I will change that. And I believe, first of all, that the responsibility for educating our children should not solely rest with our schools. That's why my first press conference as mayor was to announce a doubling of our summer youth jobs program that together with Summer Night Lights and our new Summer of Learning will comprise our Summer of Success initiative, the city's most ambitious youth education and skills training effort in a generation. Instead of students falling behind in the summer, our Summer of Success will help LA's youth leap ahead with classes, jobs, and safe places to grow and expand their horizons. Summer youth jobs will provide at least 10,000 jobs for youth from some of our toughest neighborhoods. The Summer of Learning will provide thousands of Angelinos with skills-based classes, earning digital badges that will build your personal resume that you can share with your teachers, with future employers, or with institutions of higher learning. And Summer Night Lights will continue to provide safe places for youth to engage in productive activities each evening during our most dangerous hours. Businesses get it, labor gets it, community members get it. That's why we've had so much support, and companies like Disney and Citibank have joined philanthropy and individuals and so many people who are here today to partner in this Summer of Success. Keeping kids occupied keeps them safe, keeps them out of trouble, and keeps them from falling behind. But most importantly, it increases the chances that our youth will go back to school, that they will graduate and be prepared for college and a career. But you don't have to be young to need a job in this town. And that's one of the reasons I'm overhauling our workforce training system for the first time in a decade. And in this next fiscal year, 45,000 LA residents will receive intensive workforce training focused on targeted growth sectors. My economic development strategy is simple. Focus on promoting key industries, key skills, and a business-friendly environment. Now add what's already beautiful and unique about LA, and we have a strategy for prosperity in the years ahead. But a well-run government and a strong economy help us build a more livable city, one that promotes vibrant neighborhoods, less traffic, and healthier communities. My third priority is our quality of life. Where does it begin? Simple answer is, it begins where you live, in your neighborhood, on your main street. And that's the point of my Great Streets initiative. Here's how it works. We'll saturate your street with services. We'll make your street accessible to pedestrians, wheelchairs, strollers, and bicycles, not just cars. We'll create an environment where new neighborhood businesses can flourish. We'll pave the streets and make them green streets, clean and lush with plant life, with local art and people-focused plazas. I know this worked because I did it, along with now Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell, in my old council district in Atwater Village, Echo Park, Silver Lake, and Hollywood. Focused improvements attract new cafes, help local businesses expand, and give people a great place to gather without having to always get in their car. And I'm pleased to announce today that the first 15 streets, great streets, one in each council district, will roll out this spring. From Reseda Boulevard next to Cal State Northridge, where we're going to create a place for town and gown to come together. On Gaffey Street in San Pedro, we're going to join forces with its burgeoning creative community. We're going to bring back the glory days of our storied Crenshaw, Westwood, Figueroa, and Van Nuys boulevards. And these great streets will be the standard bearers of a revitalized city, one main street at a time. And as the incoming chairman of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, I'm helping oversee the most ambitious public transit program in the United States. It's an investment of $8 billion, creating more than 100,000 jobs by refurbishing the Blue Line, extending the Purple Line down Wilshire, taking the Expo Line all the way to the beach, building the new Crenshaw Line, and bringing our lines together through a new downtown connector. We're also spending more than $1 million a day to modernize the port of Los Angeles and maintain our position as the #1 container port in the United States. And with the support of Mike Bonin, I'm leading a $7.3 billion capital improvement project to rebuild LAX, each terminal to make it a world-class airport once again. And let me be clear, we're going to bring rail to LAX, and we will settle for nothing less. But we're also boldly moving forward with pedestrian plans in our neighborhoods, painting and building new bike lanes, adding more ciclovias until we have them monthly, launching a county-wide bike share program, and embracing new technologies that minimize the need to own your own car. We're expanding core services in our neighborhoods by opening up our regional libraries on Sunday for the first time since the start of the Great Recession. And we're making sure that our city is greener and healthier. Now, the residents of Los Angeles deserve tremendous credit. Over the last 30 years, our city has added more than 1 million people, but we still use the same amount of water because of our model conservation efforts as we did 30 years ago. And there's more good news. Los Angeles is now #1 in the nation in installed solar panels, #1 in Energy Star certified buildings. Now, we've got to raise our game. By 2020, I will make sure that renewables will account for 1/3 of our energy, and we will continue our march off of coal. We will save 15% of our energy consumption by becoming more efficient. And by 2025, we're going to cut our water imports in half. You see, livable neighborhoods connected with good transportation in a green city are the foundation for our future health, for the quality of life that connects us with the things that we really want to do. Go to a concert, watch a ball game, walk our daughters to school. But none of that is possible if we are not safe within our neighborhood, and that is my 4th priority. You see, public safety starts with safe streets, and safe streets start with the men and women who are sworn to protect us. Yesterday, I ordered our city's flags lowered to half-staff. For the second time in a little bit over a month, we said goodbye to one of our own. Officers Chris Cortijo and Nick Lee put on their uniforms, went to work, and never came back. Just 2 weeks ago, Officer Sheila Sparkman responded to a domestic violence call in the Hollywood Hills and was injured when a bullet narrowly missed her face. And on Monday night, Al Ortiz and his partner were forced to defend a police station as an assailant opened fire, hitting Officer Ortiz multiple times. We owe a debt of gratitude to the men and women who protect us, and I hope you'll keep these officers and their families in your thoughts and prayers. And I hope you will join me in a moment of silence for Officer Cortijo, who passed yesterday. It is because of these and other heroes that Los Angeles today is safer than it has been since the 1950s, that crime is down for an 11th year in a row. We've been tough on crime, but we've also been smart on crime. We've continued investing, yes, in police, but also in youth intervention and crime prevention programs. These gains have been very personal to me. I've held grieving mothers. I've worked with former gang members turned into mentors. I've confronted tragedies by starting programs like Summer Nightlights with Mayor Villaraigosa and GRID, and I've personally kept the momentum on police hiring even during choppy budget waters. But I also know that public safety is about more than crime. When I came into office, I inherited a fire department with the best firefighters in the world. But I also inherited a department that was lacking in leadership, that had decades-old technology, that was laden with redundant systems that add precious time to our emergency response. That's changing on my watch. It starts with modern technology. I'm announcing today that by July 1st, we will have for the first time GPS trackers in every fire rig so that the closest unit is sent to an emergency call because seconds count when lives are on the line. Second, last week, working with Councilmember Mitch Englander, we launched FireStat, a new system modeled on the success of CompStat at LAPD, allowing fire captains to be empowered to see real-time data on response times. And guess what? Those response times will be online for the public to see by next spring as well. Something most people don't know, thirdly, is that when you call 911, the police department always answers the phone. So if you have a fire or medical emergency, you have to be transferred. That costs time, that costs money, it even costs lives. Now we're going to bring common sense to our dispatch system. I've ordered the creation of a combined 911 dispatch center for police and fire calls. And for the first time in 5 years, we're hiring again firefighters, and we're going to keep hiring this year. But at the same time, we're going to reform our hiring practices to ensure that we have the very best firefighters and the fairest system in place. Finally, public safety is about a resilient city, a city ready for disaster. This past month, we've had 2 earthquakes, literal wake-up calls that remind us that the next big one is indeed coming. Leading up to the 20-year anniversary of the Northridge earthquake, I launched an historic partnership with the United States Geological Survey to bring Dr. Lucy Jones into my administration to make sure that LA is truly prepared for the next big one. There she is. We all know and love Lucy, but this is the first time that federal and local government have worked together. And today, I'm proud to announce that with Dr. Jones's expertise, we're developing the first rating system in the United States to detail the earthquake safety of all of our buildings. But we won't stop with that game changer. My charge to Dr. Jones is to help us create plans to mandate that our older buildings are retrofitted and to protect our water and communications infrastructure. Some critics say the cost of those upgrades may be too high. But as we saw with Hurricanes Sandy and Katrina, the cost of being unprepared is much, much higher. It's a new day at City Hall. My colleagues and I are moving a city forward that has too often failed to live up to expectations. Our Back to Basics agenda, safety, quality of life, economic prosperity, and a modern government are more than a pathway forward. They're a reflection of who we are. The budget that I'll release next week reflects the values of our city. Angelenos expect a city hall that is on their side, that spends their tax dollars wisely, that protects its people, that opens up doors of opportunity for those left behind, that pulls us together instead of pulls us apart. My budget is a strong step forward. It's what puts our ideas into practice. In the past, we've paid more attention to how we spend our dollars than the results we get. It makes no sense to spend more on street paving if we aren't actually paving more streets. We call our new approach performance budgeting. And through this new budget process, we have eliminated a $242 million shortfall. But the budget is not only balanced, it includes a reserve fund at its highest level in history and a budget stabilization fund left untouched. My budget demonstrates that we know how to control our costs, budget for the long term, and earn back the trust of a public too often let down by short-term thinking. And in this budget, we will pave more streets, fix more sidewalks, clean more alleyways, building on the great efforts of Councilmembers Cedillo and Price, provide more police patrols in our neighborhoods, and help businesses get started more quickly. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Something is missing. I haven't even mentioned Paul Koretz or Tom LaBonge. So, Paul, Tom, you guys are the greatest. I promised you a Back to Basics mayor to ensure that our streets are safe, our neighborhoods are vibrant, our economy is surging forward, and that our city hall is well run. And working with our city leaders, our faith community, our neighborhood councils who are the true champions of their communities, labor, business, the people who are assembled here today, with all the 4 million people lucky enough to call Los Angeles home, and the 10 million people who call themselves Angelenos. This is our mission for a new century, to build the most creative, innovative, global city on the face of the earth. Our streets, our safety, our economy, and yes, our government must ultimately reflect the highest hopes and our most complete capacities. In just 9 months, we're changing the landscape. One summer job, one red button, one film production, one balanced budget at a time. We're about getting results, not about getting headlines. You know, my first day in office, one of the most frustrating challenges that landed on my desk was the ongoing construction along the San Diego freeway. The project had started long before I became mayor. I could have looked the other way and blamed someone else for the multiple delays, the lack of oversight, the bad planning that made the project a nightmare for residents and commuters on the west side. But I remembered conversations, quiet conversations I had with constituents during the campaign. Conversations with Angelenos who asked me to tackle that problem if I were elected mayor. So, I took charge. I quietly called an old friend, Nick Patsouris. I asked him to volunteer his time and his talents, and together we dug in. We were told that the new lane on the 405 wouldn't open before October 2014 at the earliest, possibly even the beginning of 2015. But we pushed, prodded, and built a new pathway forward. And so today I'm proud to announce that the new lane on the 405 freeway will not open in October, it will open next month. We did that because we believed in what was possible. We applied good management, and guess what? It didn't cost us $1 more. To fix City Hall, we won't rely on the same old, tired approach. We are not a timid, modest city. We are Los Angeles. And Los Angeles does big things. We do big things like the largest concrete pour in human history, big things like 10,000 youth jobs, big things like a new era at DWP, big things like rebuilding every terminal at LAX. I chose this location today as a reminder to all of us that our big achievements have not only changed our city, they've changed the face of the world. We are the city that saved the Olympics. We are the city that gave birth to Hollywood. We are the city that engineered the Space Shuttle Endeavour, shot her into the heavens, and then brought her right back here to the City of Angels, where great things and great people live. This, my friends, this Los Angeles is our city. This moment is our time. Together, let's build the Los Angeles of tomorrow. Thank you so much.